And now, your international A-team. David Downing, visit St. Pete, Clearwater. Santiago Corrada, visit Tampa Bay. Mike Meidel, Pinellas County Economic Development. Rick Homans, Tampa Hillsborough Economic Development. Joe Lapano, Tampa International Airport. Paul Anderson, Port Tampa Bay. And the moderator today is Chris Wilkerson, Tampa Bay Business Journal.
Wow, what an intro. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Good morning.
Paul, can you hear me way down there?
Who?
All right, great to see everybody. I want to get you guys engaged in a fun conversation, share with everybody what we've been up to for the past year and what we anticipate being up to next year. We're going to start today. I want to ask Rick and Mike both a little bit about Panama. We've got an important Panamanian delegation here today. Tell me about sort of why they're here today. Tell the whole, this is the Tampa Bay business community out here in the audience. Tell us about why this group is here today and how it is a reflection on a strategy that you guys have in these international trade missions.
Well, Chris, first off, I want to say last year we talked about the bromance between Mike and myself, but now we've got like the whole rat pack up here doing this. So this is great. The dirty dozen, yeah. We'll keep expanding it. But to our friends from Panama, this is absolutely what international trade and business development is all about. It started with Joe and his team going down and the mayor making an attempt to bring Copa Airlines here, unsuccessful, going back again and again, winning the flight, us taking missions down to Panama to establish business relationships in Panama, and encouraging and bringing up a conversation with Robert St. John, the president of the AmCham Chamber in Panama, and Pilar, who's here, the idea of why don't you guys now come to Tampa Bay? And you should know, this is the first outbound trade mission that the AmCham of Panama has ever done in its history, and they picked to come here to Tampa Bay. And this is, we've got USF and Camels is looking at building a facility down there. Tampa Tank, David Hale is here. He's doing business. There's many other companies doing business. And this is all about building business, cultural, personal relationships, and increasing the traffic on Copa Airlines. And one final thing I'll say, then I'll zip it up here, is when we were down in Panama meeting with the ambassador, we were talking about airline service, and the ambassador said, "Do you see Copa as a threat to you in any way?" And the directors from Miami and Orlando said, "Absolutely, because we see ourselves as the gateway to Latin America." And I said, "Excuse me, let me offer a different view of Copa Airlines. Is we view Copa Airlines and we view Tocumen Airport and we view Panama City as our gateway to Latin America, because that's what Copa Airlines has brought to us. And that's what Lufthansa will bring to us too, going to Frankfurt and opening up the rest of the world." So this is what international trade is all about, and we welcome our friends from Panama here today. Thank you.
Yeah, the Panama trip was an incredible opportunity for us to work as partners, and really to work everyone here as partners in the effort to just expand trade with Latin America, but in particular with Panama. But an opportunity, obviously, for the shipping through the ports. The future of the Panama Canal is the future of trade on the east coast of the United States. It will be an alternative to Long Beach. It's a chance to bring cargo and container traffic here to the East Coast, shorten the travel time to destinations throughout the U.S., and give us connections to Asia and to the world. So, and to Chile and on the entire west coast of South America. So we're excited about that opportunity. The beauty of the Panama trip was it wasn't our mission, but we took it over. It's an example of that leveraging. It was Enterprise Florida's mission. We had a great state partners there, but we sponsored the reception at the ambassador's residence, and it looked like a Tampa Bay event. It was wonderful, and I think it gave us excellent connections, partners that went with us on the trip. have great opportunities with already have a contract with the Canal Zone on providing some products and services there. It was a very successful trip, but I think it's an example of how when we work together, we have a much greater impact on those markets we're trying to reach. So we're excited about that.
Well, and Rick pointed out when we first started that last year this was considered a bromance, and now there's 6 of you up here. I think that one of the things that this group wanted to kind of communicate to the room is that the conventional wisdom potentially from several years ago that these were 2 counties that were not necessarily on the same page on things is no longer necessarily the truth. And when everybody in the crowd sees this group on your program, you're looking at, despite the fact that this is a group of white men, this is a pretty diverse group of people up here. Representing a diverse set of interests, and a diverse part of the community. Can you tell me a little bit about sort of that working together component and why it separates us a little bit from maybe some of the other communities that the delegations around the world that have an opportunity to come here would see a difference here?
Chris? I'm going to start off with that one if I could. I think that, when we first started working collaboratively, and I tell a story about us going down to Panama and riding around in a pretty nasty van, and it's kind of hot and sweaty. We all had the same goal in mind, and I think Rick was saying, in order to have the kind of healthy trade that you need between communities, you got to have the air service. You got to have some kind of connectivity. So when you go down and meet with an airline and you only have the airport there, you have a very, very singular message. When you go down to meet with an airline and you have all of these guys there saying, here's what I'm going to do, and then they actually do it. Okay, so as Rick said, we got the flight, and then we started taking missions to those cities. So you went to somewhere and came back with 6 or 7 big contracts that were signed. So that commitment and that teamwork, I think, started sort of around trying to get these flights, but it's now magnified itself, and that's probably not the right word, but it's amplified into some great cooperation. And now, if you want to attract a company, I'm all in. You tell me where to go, I'll go do it. Mayor's all in, everybody's in, and so it's really fun to be part of it.
Paul?
Yeah, I would say if anybody's ever had a chance to be playing a team sport when you were younger, high school, college, whatever, and then if you had a chance to play on a championship team, there's a special feeling that you get when you're on a championship team. I had that good fortune to do that in high school on a football team, and this is exactly what it feels like. I feel like I look down here, I see teammates. I look down, I've got a bunch of comrades that I know we're working together. It's National Tourism Week. We just saw Santiago's group have a great event, and it included the Bay. And there is alignment going on, and I am so fond of using our mayor, Mayor Buckhorn, and to see our mayors working together. But it's Tampa Bay's time, and this is a renaissance for what's going on in the Bay Area, and it feels great. You can just feel it when we're together. And we went on these trade missions together, and I believe that we're experiencing something that only comes along once in a lifetime. And I think that is an alignment of our elected officials on both sides of this bay and all the counties surrounding. And I believe that it aligns our economic development agencies, our tourism agencies, our airports, our ports. And we have something special that's happening right now. And Tim, I think that this is how it looks. This is maybe unprecedented. Look at the audience here, look at the engagement, and it's exciting to be part of this. And we at the Port, as the largest economic engine in the area, are committed to continue to work on. We import a lot of stuff, and that's going to happen no matter what, because America's the largest consuming nation and will be in the top 2 for the next 30 to 50 years at a minimum. We need to export more things, and we're committed to doing that. That's why we're here today, and that's why we created this Export Alliance.
You know, I would jump on something that he said. This is part that has to come from the top down, at the same time it comes from the bottom up. And a lot of things have to be aligned at this very moment in order for this regionalism that I think we've been talking about for a long time to happen. To see both mayors up here this morning greeting everybody. To have a county commission on both sides, on the Pinellas side and the Hillsborough side, that thinks it's time for this to happen. To have a county administrator in place that says it's time for this to happen. We've got 24 cities in Pinellas and 15 chambers. There's a lot going on every day just to make one piece out of that. To make one larger piece out of the Tampa Bay region requires all these things, but I think we have a huge opportunity right now because all the right people are in the right positions, and I think it's just beginning right now.
So and Paul had kind of pointed this out about this is sort of this synchronicity all kind of starting to really happen. And somebody told me in the crowd before we came up here that this community's been talking about this, the day that this might happen, for a long time. And now that it appears to be here, oh my God, what are we going to do with ourselves? So tell the crowd a little bit about how they can take advantage of this synergy. Tell the business community a little bit, anybody that wants to pop in, how a business that's trying to do great business, trying to make money out there, can take advantage of the fact that everybody's starting to work together smoothly.
Well, a great opportunity is coming up this fall. We're going to be heading to Canada as our next joint mission. So in October timeframe, we're going to be going to Toronto. We're going to have an opportunity for companies who want to sell their products and services into the Canadian market to come with us to meet directly with companies that are looking to buy their goods and services. And then we'll also have another track to help bring the cultural exchange, the educational exchange, and work with our economic development partners up there. But that's the first event. We'll see some opportunity in the near future to begin on the training side. So we'll put out some information on classes that you can take on how to reach into that Canadian market, how to begin doing business, and to prepare people for that Toronto trip.
But Chris, I'll say too, I think one of the reasons why this is working is because we're not talking about it. We're actually doing it. We're working it. And for businesses here, for example, for the airline, we've got to know where businesses are traveling around the world. We've got to know where you would travel if you had direct flights to those areas. We need to know, we need your involvement in creating new markets for your products, because if you're manufacturing a product, that's what's going to grow the port. The port is going to grow when we have materials and products that can ship out in containers, because there's going to be a lot more containers coming in and going into distribution centers and distribute through Central Florida and southeastern United States. So there's a lot of business to be done and grown, and it's got to be grown right from here in Tampa Bay. And the more that we're connected with each other, the more we know about what you need, we're going to be able to plug it in to everything that we're doing up on this stage.
So have we done some of those classes already, those classes where a business person can come in and kind of learn about what their opportunities are in the next market, whether the next market you guys are going to visit, like Canada?
There's a tremendous array of partners in this room, and I hope you'll take advantage of the opportunity at the expo at the break to get out there and see some of them. The U.S. Commercial Services people are right within our suites of offices, working with us day in, day out, Sandra Campbell and her crew. We've also got Max Stewart from Enterprise Florida. The state representatives are here, and day in, day out, working with companies. The Small Business Development Center in Tampa and statewide has a new focus on export development. They've got highly trained individuals and counselors that are ready to help you develop that international marketing plan. So the array of resources is tremendous, and the Export-Import Bank is going to be out there. Every angle is being covered. So, you know, if you are interested at all, get in touch take a look at our website, the Tampa Bay Export Alliance, and we'll connect you with the right resource to get that going.
I got
Yes, sir.
one thing. If you want to get involved in the international and support the international efforts that we have up here, book Lufthansa and book Copa.
There you go.
That's right. That's all I'm saying.
Chris? Yeah, Santiago, we had talked about, you know, and Rick just mentioned that, this regionalism thing started really happening when we stopped yapping about it and started getting on planes and going and doing it. Tell me a little bit about how that looks from your.
You know, we've joked about the A-team today, and we've joked about the bromance thing, and this isn't for show. This combination of guys here and gals, because we do take ladies along, is real. I mean, we really like each other. We like seeing each other. We like supporting each other. And when you talk about the travels we've been on, we've mentioned Panama, we've mentioned Chile, there's been India, there's Brazil, there's Switzerland. The team comes together, and the important message here for this audience is rest assured that this team is not in it for personal glory. This team is in it for the glory of Tampa Bay. And when we get out there and collectively talk about what we do that makes our community so very, very special to the rest of the world, people take notice that we have our act together. Mm-hmm. We're not out there talking about Santiago or David or Paul or Rick or Mike or Joe. We're out there talking about Tampa Bay and how you benefit from working with Tampa Bay. And I think that's what is so very, very impressive. When we take these delegations and we're 60, 70, 80 strong, and we're out there talking about the incredible business you can do with our region, it sends a strong message. So do take advantage of this great collaboration, because the stars have aligned for us. We've got players that not only like each other professionally, we like each other personally. We take great joy in seeing each other. When we get together, it's a celebration. I was thrilled to be here this morning. I've had a rough week, but I was looking forward to Friday, to sitting with these guys, because I don't get to usually see them all together. So it's fantastic when we do get together.
And I think on top of that as well, the product that Tampa Bay is, or the tourism product, or the product in general. Look, when people come to this destination as a visitor, they aren't coming saying, I'm just visiting, I'm turning off my eyes to everything else or every other possibility. They come here and they fall in love with it and they buy a second home. Or they think, I can bring my business here. Or they think, hey, you know what, I can fly here. What are the other opportunities? Santiago and I are the people who create the image for these destinations. And it's, sure, it's easy, breezy, it's beautiful, it's beaches, it's channelside, it's all these great things throughout the entire destination. But at the end of the day, this is very serious business. $8.4 billion last year. From visitors alone. 15 million visitors just in Pinellas County last year. 95,000 people directly employed by tourism in Pinellas County. So when we mix with our friends from economic development, even though we might have little different roles in how we get it done, it all works together as one parts of one bigger machine.
Well, and David, oftentimes a visitor, among those $8.4 billion in visitors, are business people. Right. And they're coming here and they're getting interested in the market, and they're going home and they're looking at business opportunities, which we're able to follow up on. So it's a team effort to make that happen.
And it was a key reason that we changed our name and rebranded from the Tampa Port Authority to Port Tampa Bay. We really believe we are a regional port, and we serve 8.5 million people, not 400,000 people. And we serve the I-4 corridor. And with our cruise passengers, we are working, don't think we're not working together. Joe and I, we have management team meetings together where we jointly meet our entire management team. Santiago, we're Rick, we're Mike, we're talking about how do we put the region's brand, what we represent to the world, in front of our 1 million cruise passengers who come through the port. And we're engaged in doing that right now. How do we tell our story? And again, this is about an export alliance, but it's bringing all of the awareness of this region to every person who comes in here, because you know what, when they fly in, particularly now on our international flights, thanks to Joe and his hard work, and you get international business people that see our region. Like you said, they want to buy a condo, but maybe they want to relocate. They like it so much, the CEO says, I want to put a regional headquarters there. I want to have my North American headquarters in that region because they have it going on. So as I alluded to earlier, this is a truly exciting time. And I think as we all like to say to each other, it's great to see you, great to be together, and that is sincere. It's not made up.
David and Santiago both spoke pretty passionately about the feeling that they have a strong role in this economic development push that may be different from how a similar agency in another community might see themselves. They both told me before the conversation today, they've got advertisements in a half a dozen languages around the world. That branding that Tampa Bay gets on sunny pictures and advertisements around the world, but also in how Paul has changed the branding of the port. Tell me a little bit about how you've seen that conscious branding push sort of change perceptions out there on how people see Tampa Bay.
You know, David's the real expert. You know, I kind of jumped into this business, but I can tell you that we take our job very, very seriously about being the introduction to the destination. You know, David mentioned it. You know, our image, we put the image out there because we want to be the introduction that leads to many other opportunities. And it's all in branding. You know, what has led to record-breaking numbers, bed tax collections, hotel revenue numbers on both sides of the bay? I believe lots of things, but primarily branding. You know, David does a masterful job of branding the assets that he has on his side of the bay, and I think we do a masterful job branding the assets that we have, and they're complementary to each other. You know, I get amped up when I see his advertising, you know, his new marketing effort, and he gets amped up when he looks at what we're doing as well. So there's lots of conversation. We travel the world together. We were just in Germany together, meeting with hundreds of travel agents, tour operators, travel writers, talking about the destination, because we are in fact, you know, working to make sure those planes, those Lufthansa planes are full when they start flying here in September. So again, the collaboration amongst us is great, but with the two tourism agencies is the best that it's ever been.
This is bromance number 2, right?
That's right.
No, but I mean, you know, we're in a unique position, not just for Florida, but I think the U.S., to have 2 distinct CVBs, two destination marketing organizations, who on a clear day can see each other across the bay. To try to somehow simultaneously grow that, your individual, your uniqueness, because we are separate markets with different objectives, but to grow the brand when necessary. For example, we shared representation in Latin America for 15 years. We shared sales representation both in Chicago and New York for a while. We work very collaboratively in places where it makes sense for us to work together. We go it alone in places where it makes more sense for us to go it alone. But without us working together, for example, and with our airports, to develop air service. Everyone agrees in this room, I believe that the air service development is key to growing not just tourism, but import, export, everything, raising the level of the destination. So when we can start at the baseline saying, hey, let's work on a flight with the leadership of Joe at Tampa International and Noah at St. Pete Clearwater, that's a start.
The other beautiful thing about, you're talking about the evolving branding of the marketplace. I think what David's doing now to do brand extension and to make this an exciting area for diversity. You talked about diversity, and you know, we don't exemplify that, but we are trying to reach out for that. And I think if you look at the Tampa Bay market, we have incredible diversity, and we're beginning to market to that diverse environment. We're showing the millennials and the young people, the creative, innovative people who are coming out of our universities, that this isn't just a market for old people. This is, and it's not just a laid-back vacation, sit on the beach for a week. There's a lot of things to do here. It's an exciting, vibrant area, and that message goes out to the business community as well, and it says, this is where you're gonna have the best and brightest employees. This is a cool place to be. This is where you're gonna have the IT and tech people. This is where your engineers are gonna wanna go. This is the next big market for our labor force, and it's sending that message out, and we really appreciate that.
And I want to go back, focus a little bit on trade opportunities, because you asked about that earlier,
Definitely.
Tim. And we were honored to host the Panama delegation in this inbound mission. And we are so thankful to the AmCham when we go down there, how well they treat us. So part of this is reciprocating, but it's a true feeling of working together to develop trade. And along those lines, yesterday we signed an MOU between our Foreign Trade Zone and the Free Trade Zones Association of Panama. And as many of you may know, and if you don't, it's one of the largest in the world. So this will open many doors and opportunities for businesses to come from that Free Trade Zone Association to see what we have to offer here and the trade that can happen going through our respective trade zones. It's a huge opportunity for those of you who are looking for export opportunities. And we have experts on our staff We have a lot of people that will be out there afterwards that can help you align yourself and develop some of the expertise to break down those sort of barriers that a lot of American small businesses have about doing business internationally. So take advantage of that. We're very proud to have signed that MOU. We think it's going to offer for many, many years opportunities to do additional trade between our region and Panama.
Well, that was actually that's what I was getting ready to ask you a little bit about. Rick talked about all these containers that are about to come in, and we've got to find somebody to fill them up and send them back out again. Talk to me a little bit about the strategy of getting our Tampa Bay products, familiar enough with their own export destinations and their own possibilities and potential that we can fill those containers up and send them back out the door.
Well, one of our key strategies is, we're the biggest port in Florida by far. We're a 5,000-acre port complex, and we export and import more tonnage than our other ports in the state of Florida. But being the biggest doesn't necessarily mean you're the best. We want to be the best at everything we do, and we are developing a long-term strategy that we believe will allow us to be the very best. Developing new on that land that we have, which other ports just simply cannot do. We are developing some numerous right now, almost a dozen opportunities for us to site manufacturing facilities on our port property or directly adjacent to take advantage of the interstate highway system that we are so connected to, our airport, our deep water, electricity with TECO sited down at the port at Red Wing. We have a strategic asset that no other port, very few properties around this country can offer. So we are looking to organically build some of that export that we need to do. But this is what we need to be doing. This is really important that we get the entire region focused on the export opportunities to fill those containers. We have our partner here, Amports is with us. Doug, I see Doug over there, the largest terminal operating company in North America. We are partnered with them. We are partnered with CSX. We are partnered with companies that have global reputations and presence to try and build new cargo exports. And one of the biggest things that's happening, as you all know, is the Panama Canal expansion, and we are going to be ready. That will open sometime in late spring of next year, and we are going to be ready. We pushed very hard to get 2 post-Panamax gantry cranes so that we can handle larger ships, and those will be in about February of March of next year. We're very excited about that, and that will allow us to attract new services, much like Joe is out there trying to develop new air carriers. We need to attract more ocean carriers. We only have 2 today, and we need more connectivity, just like Joe with Lufthansa. And they connected 2 continents that we were not serving from this region. And we're working very diligently, very aggressively with all of our partners to develop new services, and we believe they're going to come once we get all of these things aligned.
Yes, Paul, I think that's a really important thing for people to understand, because sometimes we run into companies that they might even be based here, but they're not shipping out of the port because it's more efficient for them to go to another port with direct service to some other location, and it's cheaper. So Mike and I are on board to go with Paul, just like we've gone with Joe, wherever he goes to call on these shipping lines. We're there to support it, because as you grow that piece of the business, that grows our capacity to export from this market. And so it's absolutely key. It's a threshold, for us increasing the trade.
It's absolutely the reason we put the alliance together, is to try to increase exports. We've got a strong manufacturing base, a strong service base. Services can be exported. We've got expertise here in the Tampa Bay area that goes around the world to help people to manage their companies, to engineer and design facilities, and just assist in so many different ways. IT companies exporting their software. There's so many opportunities here, and really it goes back to that Brookings Institute study saying that we're 88th out of 100 based on the percentage of our gross domestic product that comes from exports. If we were average of the top 100 metros instead of 88th, we could add $8 billion in sales and 40,000 jobs. And that's what we're all about. We're trying to create jobs out of this, and to have those connections and to be able to begin to export and to take advantage of the empty containers that are going back. The shipping rates out of here are incredible. I mean, it's a good opportunity, a competitive advantage that we have in the Tampa Bay area. The other trend that's really working for us is the onshoring. The fact that manufacturing is making a comeback, that we have companies here. We have a German company in Pinellas County that is competing with Chinese volume production and winning. They are putting out product with less people, with high automation, but they can compete with a high volume technical product. And this is exactly what we need to help our companies understand they can do, that they can compete on that foreign market, they can enter these large growing consumer markets in Asia and even in Africa and South America. This is an opportunity that we want to make sure our companies understand.
Yeah, when you talk about trade and exports and so on, the number one export we have in this country is tourism. And tourism is an export, right? Because people come and leave their money here and they lay on your beach and get your sun. So, and that's something that we have to focus on, I think, intently, and we have to make sure that the CVBs are properly funded so that they can keep these airplanes full. We have to market this destination on a consistent and reliable way. So we got to make sure that Santiago and David have the funding to support these flights and make sure they're successful so that we can get the next flight and the next flight and the next flight. But the other thing I would say is that the international traffic has grown by 73%. So what happens is once we plug a flight in, people realize how easy it is to get to our destination. Or there's a guy here today who does steel fabrication. For 20 years, he's been doing business with Panama, but he's had to connect over Miami. Now all of a sudden he has this nonstop flight. His business is growing. So I would urge the people in this audience to take advantage of the new connections we have, whether it be to South America over Panama, where you can go to 7 Brazilian cities with one easy stop in Panama. Start expanding your business internationally. Start expanding Tampa Bay to other parts of the world, because when you look outside this country, that's where the real opportunities are becoming. Lufthansa can take you to 50 cities beyond Frankfurt with an easy connection. So when you think about your business, start thinking about how you can expand it internationally, because we now have the infrastructure. We got the highways in the sky that'll get you there easy.
And talking about connectivity, one of the things that has really come together that should not be lost on all of us in this room, we a year ago opened the I-4 connector, which was a huge addition to not only the interstate highway system that we have for Tampa Bay, but we have a dedicated truck lane that comes into the port. And all of the other infrastructure improvements that are being made that will connect Joe's airport, what he's doing with the expansion, the veterans, the 275 expansion, it's going to make it easier for people to connect, but it's also going to make it easier for cargo connectivity, which is really important. And it shouldn't be lost on you either that the I-4 corridor, West Central Florida and Central Florida are on schedule and predicted to outpace South Florida by 2-to-1 in population growth. That means opportunities for all of us sitting here and all of you in this room, both from tourism numbers, cargo numbers. And what has happened is we have seen the siting of distribution centers along that I-4 corridor. And connecting our interstate, our highway, our business travel on our, between our airport and our airports is very critical to growing that connectivity, not just for people, but for cargo. And that's happening. And we also happen to have one of the best partners in the world and the best in the nation is our Florida Department of Transportation that are making investments in all of our businesses that help us grow at the port, at the airports. And so, again, alignment. This is all coming together. It's an exciting possibility. I love being here in Tampa Bay.
Paul, without drilling down so far that we lose people, can you tell me a little bit about the importance of these new cranes that are coming in next winter and how they are going to, how they're going to help work with the new Panamax ships to come in? And I assume there's a size that can go under the bridge and a size that can't go under the bridge and a size that's going to need bigger cranes. et cetera. Can you give us a little sense of kind of
Very
what that's going to
simply,
mean
yes.
for us?
First of all, we are acquiring these cranes, $24 million, 50% from the State Department of Transportation, and a 50% match from the port. So I want you to know that every dollar that goes into a port in the state has to be matched from the state, has to be matched by the port. The restrictor for our handling larger ships at Port Tampa Bay was our cranes. Our cranes are 47 years old. They're very efficient. They do a good job, but they're getting old. We needed larger cranes, and we can handle the ships that are going to come into the Gulf, the largest ships through the port, through the bridge. It was the cranes, and it was the reach out. Currently, they can go 13 containers wide on a ship. The ships we need that we're being told by companies from around the world, ocean carriers, to come into our port are going to be 20 wide. So we had to prepare for the growth, and those are the ships that will be coming through the new expanded Panama Canal. And I was very straightforward to our board that I couldn't promise a guarantee we were going to get a new carrier if we got those cranes, but I could promise and guarantee we wouldn't get one if we didn't get those cranes. They're critical and strategic to the long-term growth of our port.
And Chris, that's a huge investment, but at the same time, our other major piece of infrastructure is the airport, $1 billion, and yesterday you delivered on the biggest contract in the history of the airport, right?
It wasn't me, it was Mayor. He voted yes. I just put it up there. Yeah, Rick, thank you for bringing that up. I'd just like to spend a couple of minutes on
Please
that.
do.
I mean, we're spending the $1 billion because we're having success in the international market, right? And so we're seeing that today. And so we put 9,000 people to work. And as you're going out there, you see all these construction workers. I don't know what they were doing 2 or 3 months ago, but some of them weren't doing anything. And now those jobs are being created. But I think the bottom line is what everybody up here is trying to do is to create jobs for people. So the more success we have together to bring more flights in, the more people get employed at hotels. There's more hotels going up down there in Clearwater, right? There's more hotels going up down there in Tampa. There's people are going to have jobs now because of that. And that's really the role of this group. And the infrastructure improvements are fantastic because they're going to allow us to grow for the next generation. 40 years from now, somebody will be figuring out what the next step will be. But the bottom line is that we were all focused on creating jobs. And I think we're having success.
To wrap up today, and I appreciate everybody's time, and I know the crowd really appreciates everybody's time. I'd like to hear Santiago and David again tell us a little bit about kind of how important it is for the tourism side, really even to be asked to the table in a conversation like this, and to be a part of this kind of A-team that is branding this community around the world.
And I asked David if I could go first because we often hear this in our industry. Tourism is the Rodney Dangerfield of economic development. We get no respect. You think about chambers, you think about economic development corporations, you never think about tourism. And we know that we're importing money every single day. We don't get out and announce a big corporate relocation and we're done for a few days. We are constantly filling the pipeline with people coming to the destination and spending their money here and leading to lots of the things you've heard this morning. When you take, and I'll give a quick example, when you take an old federal courthouse like we had in Tampa that sat there that was an eyesore, the mayor decided to put an RFP out there for somebody to come in and develop it. All of a sudden, that put people in the construction business to work to redevelop that property. It became a tax-paying, sales tax collecting, bed tax collecting piece of property that put people to work before it opened and after it opened, and it helped us to bring people to Tampa. So when you think about, the connections on direct spending and indirect spending, we have a great deal to do and say about that. So we're thrilled that we're up here, and it only took 1 year for us to get invited to be up here. So we're really thrilled to be, invited to sit up here. But again, each and every day, we're filling that economic pipeline with people coming to our home, sharing our home, and then they get to go back home. We love them, we want them to come back, but we want them to spend their money and we want them to go back home and then return at some other point so we can allow other people to come here. So again, you know, it's the open door to all the other things that could possibly happen.
Santiago, all we did last year was say, if you get a haircut, you can come up here.
I get invited.
No, I would dovetail on that. You know, something Joe said in passing. This isn't National Travel and Tourism Week. We're doing things to celebrate all week, but mostly we're reminding people of the benefits and economic impact of tourism. Joe touched on it. It's an export. We have a huge amount of export, and you know, to Santiago's point, you know, is it economic development? Is it not? Something that concerns me every day is currency fluctuations. Our biggest market right now internationally might be the UK. How's the pound doing? You know, and what does that mean for tourism inbound? Look at what's going on with the euro, 25 or 30% difference over the last 6 months. How much more expensive are we this year than we were last year for one of our core markets? Brazil, we're all over Brazil. Look what's going on with the real. So what we try to do is we try to hedge our bets by putting as many lines out into as many different areas all over the world as possible. And if that's not economic development, I don't know what is. So we work very closely, not only with our folks in economic development, but with each other to stay on top of these things.
Ladies and gentlemen, your International Town Hall Tampa Bay Export Alliance A-Team.
Well done.